Welcome everybody to Let's Talk About It. Podcast is a platform for real talk, real people, real topics, real conversations. People who's watching me on YouTube, thank you so much for subscribing to this channel. I'm trying to build it up. People watching it for the first time, hit that like button. The more likes I get, the better algorithm it puts me into. It reaches you out more. Also, hit that notification button. You know, when episodes like my afterthoughts of my story, which I'm doing today, part 3, or any of my episodes or any other content I have on here, it will come to you automatically. You can watch it automatically. People listening to me on Apple, Spotify, HeartbRadio. The link is in the description below. Please like, subscribe, give a comment, give me some 5 stars. I appreciate you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is about afterthoughts of my story. This is part 3 of my story. People who watched this before, I have already done my story already, but I had to deep dive into this and do the afterthoughts of it. What I learned about telling my story. A brief summary of it. I told my story like 8 parts. It was therapy for me. Everything I've been through in my life. Some people always say like, why are you doing it? I'm doing it for therapy for me. And also some people have gotten something out of this and they can relate. Anyway, let's get on to part 3. Part 2, I ended off in my 20s, wild and crazy. I got a lot of responses about that one. No, I cannot share everything because I had to, have like a OF account or something like that for a lot of stuff I did. But you know what I mean, um, but I learned from all that. I learned from that going into part 3, which is my marriage. When I got married, ex-wife at the time, she got pregnant with our son. My grandma was on me about it. She's like, listen, man, you can't have all these kids and not get married. I was like, all right, you right. You were so right. So, I got married. It was a quick wedding. Thanks at the time, we decided to get married when she was like 3 months. She was 6 months when we got married, married at a little town hall, a little VFW place. I've already said that in my story before. But this is what I learned though, about that time. Should we have not got married? Should I have not been so freely with my shit? You know, we were both young. At the time I was just about to turn what 25 20. I was about to turn 26. She's about to turn 21. She was 20. I was 20. I was 25. So we both young, inexperienced, didn't really know too much about anything. Should we have gotten it? Maybe. But then I thought about it. I had to think, like, I had to do something right. Like I said in the prior episodes, I wasn't a good father to my 2 oldest kids, and I paid for that. It hurt my son's mother, Junior's mother a lot. And I mean, right when I left and got married, because basically I think she felt that I should have, try to make it work with her and be a decent person and get married and go on my life with her. But I didn't do that. Again, I apologize for that, for everything I've done. So, we get into the whole marriage part. In the very beginning, typical marriage, got married. I think we lived with her parents for like a couple years. No, I think like around 2 years. And our basement, no, sorry, a couple months in the basement. Then we got into a house that our father already had. It was in a town I wasn't really comfortable with. So at that time, like, I, we struggled. And I think back on that now, we did struggle. She was, working in collections, all type of stuff like that. Not making that much money. I wasn't making that much money either. And I was being a baker in a bakery. We had a kid. My daughter at the time, she was actually, I didn't know this at the time. She just got locked up for in juvie. you know, she was going through some trouble there. And my oldest son, it took me a little time to get with him to come be with us in Jersey. So in the very beginning, it was a very struggle for us. We just barely hardly paid our bills and stuff like that. It was a struggle. But at the time, what I realized was we actually was closer. We communicated, we talked. And, this is before all the books and everybody tell you got to communicate with marriage and all this shit. So that's what we did. And we got through it. Had little odd jobs here and there. So then, you know what? I got my big break. I was working for this mom pop trucking company or whatever. Because back in my other store, I said that I got like a summer job with my father-in-law Richie, which I miss him to death because my former in-laws were very, very good to me and very, very good to my kids. Got me a job as a helper in the beer company. I got my license and it didn't work out with that company, but I'm ever grateful for him for hooking me on to that. So to move on, had me a job as a little mom and pop one, shitty ass job, delivering chicken, whatever it was, back and forth to Brooklyn, Jersey. So I saw this sign that said Coca-Cola. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna apply. You know what I mean? I told my ex-wife bye. It's like, yeah, do it. So I applied, didn't hear nothing back. And like, we still kind of struggling. You know what I mean? Like, paying the mortgage and taking care of Brandon, and that's why I think Junior was starting to come over on the weekends, like every other weekend. So like, we had to plan it out accordingly. Because the money wasn't really coming in like that. So I got the job at Coca-Cola. I was like, wow, damn, a real job, right? Told my grandmother about it, told my mom about it. At the time, I told my mom. Mom was like, "Was about time. About time you got a real job. By the time like you become a man and take care of your family." Because I think my mom was still kind of sore that I didn't marry Junior's mom because she was real close to her, and she was kind of mad about that. She's still a little sore about stuff like that. Whatever. So I started Coca-Cola, career job. Delivering soda for Coca-Cola. And then all of a sudden, like man, like everything start like kicking off. Start making money, good checks every week. I'm getting paid every week. And then I was like, you know what? We need to get a house. We need to step it up there. So at the time, like, working for Coke and great benefits. Start getting a pension. I'm like 26, 27 years old. Like, damn, I'm making money. I can take care of my family. Now looking back on now, I think that's what I was thinking. Especially, not so much for my family, but I mean, I guess for my family, but also trying to make my mom and grandma proud of me and not be a loser. But you can't make everybody proud. You can't make everybody happy. That's what I learned. Think about it now, then a lot of people still wasn't happy because like the guys I was hanging out with, it was like, damn man, you changed, man. Like you up there in Jersey now in the burbs, you know what I mean, with them and I mean you ain't trying to hang out no more. I couldn't do that anymore. I had to man up and step up and grow up. So, went to the whole Coca-Cola phase, loving my job, great money, great benefits. Uh and like, our son's getting older. And my oldest son started coming over more every other weekend. So we started doing the whole family thing and, hanging out with the kids, taking them to places, taking down the shore, Hershey Park, whatever. You know what I mean? Doing the whole family thing. Like, we even got like a little minivan, like the whole family thing. So that's when the whole family thing started. Now I'm thinking about it now. I was like, wow, like that's crazy. Like nobody gets a minivan anymore. You know what I mean? But back in the day, back in the 90s, or matter of fact, 2000s, everybody had a minivan, especially if you had kids. And some people still do. You know what I mean? But, went through the whole emotions, did everything I had to do. Uh, working, and then I was like, you know what? I need to get a house. So somebody told me it would be cheaper if you build a house. So like, what I mean, got in contact with this company. It was a mortgage builder company. Forgot the name of it. And they say you need a deposit. I was like, damn, I got the money like that. You know what I mean? So I asked my grandmother. My grandma was like, you know what? I remember it just came back to me. It's like, when I used to say people, like my family never say I'm proud of you and stuff like this and that. She still didn't say it. But I think when she gave me the money for the down payment for the land, I guess that was like her way of saying she was proud of me. Like my parents was different about saying I'm proud of you or I love you or stuff like that. My mom still ain't saying anything. You know, she still was, hurt that I moved on. I didn't marry her favorite, whatever it was. So had the house built, had to wait a year, sold the other house we was in, living with my parents. Parents was great. Like again, I said the other episodes, I couldn't have a better bunch of in-laws in my life. My father-in-law, my former father-in-law, my former mother-in-law, treated my, even Junior, my oldest son, treated him fairly, greatly. But this is at the same time, you probably wonder, like, what happened to Sherelle, my daughter? She was in and out of juvie at this time. She was getting in trouble, uh, you know, trying to figure that out. It was a big mess. Going to see her, trying to figure that out. It was crazy. So I had the house built, finally moved in this small little town in Jersey, Magnolia. Actually, the same town my grandma lived in. It was really right around. It's like around the corner, but somewhere around the corner. Nice lot, uh, 2-story house. Living room, dining room. I was proud. You know what I mean? I got a career job. I got a pension. You know what I mean? Right? I got a house built, brand new. I'm like, man, I'm put work in this. So I'm working my ass off. I'm doing the whole lawnmower shit, like mowing your grass, doing all this shit. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, okay, I'm a dad. You know what I mean? Well, I'm a father. I'm a husband. But this I had to think about. Like, at the time, I think that, we was all worried about family. Family, family, family. And her family was involved a lot too. And I think this is the beginning stages of we didn't spend enough time with each other. It was all about family, right? All about family. That's what I'm getting at now. So, what I mean, like, we got as years is going by, we got popular in the community. Brand started going to school there, started getting into the community. Then the biggest thing in the world happened to us at that time in Magnolia was Little League. You know, put Brandon in sports. Junior didn't like sports too much. He kind of liked sports in a way. I mean, he was with his mom. His mom moved from Philly to Jersey. She put him in soccer. It was pretty decent. Pretty decent. Try to see him over there. But he was more of the homebody kid. But Brandon started to be like, my son, he started to be like the athlete. So start paying attention to him more in baseball. Start getting better and better. So I started coaching him. Me and other fathers out there, what I mean, like putting the team together, Dallas, Dwayne, all that, what I mean, Chris, and start bringing them up. Having fun, teaching them fundamentals of baseball, kids having a great time. You know what I mean? Some kids, some parents didn't, some parents didn't. So as we going through the whole Little League thing, I'm starting to get a little popularity. My ex-wife started getting a little popularity too. So a couple years later, like, I just decided to join the board, and I ran for vice president and I won. Right? Black vice president in the Little League. You probably thinking like that's nothing big. But like, parents out there, they want to get involved in their kids and do shit like that, get involved in their kids. So the following year, I decided to run for president. And yeah, I was the first black president of that Little League. Probably the first black president ever before Barack Obama. I'm not. I mean, but before Obama, before he was for that one. So, it was a good time for me. I loved it. It was something that I got deep into. Ex-wife, she was the president auxiliary, was snack stand, doing all type of shit downstairs. So we was like the power couple running shit. So going through all this, doing basic date nights, being involved in Little League, taking the kids everywhere, uh, having certain groups of friends coming over, having house parties, barbecues, hanging out with them, stuff like that, having live parties. She liked to entertain. But this is what I realized. I had to realize this. I had to think about this. We didn't do it for each other. Like we wasn't like doing our own thing, like more one-on-ones. We was doing it for everybody else. That was her thing, and like I went along with it. Like whatever, it is what it is. No shade, whatever it was. But then they had that much in common outside of doing family things. Like we was a great husband and family, but husband and wife, you start to see the signs that we was just there for the kids. I think. Great mom, couldn't take none away from her. Then at the time, right, then we had our daughter, our youngest daughter. So then we started building a family. Then we started doing more and more stuff, more and more things with the family. I mean, like then after that, the baseball, the town stuff, volunteering this, volunteering that, family of the year, basically the Jenkins family. Then Brandon started doing more and more travel ball. I had my own travel ball team, Eshan Road Runners. I mean, I had great coaches like, may rest in peace, Henry. And my man, my man, my man Juan, my PR, this is my buddy right there. I couldn't have done that without him. Honestly, I couldn't have done it without him. And we traveled around, and Brandon stepped off and started doing his own little things. It was all about him in baseball. And Jewel was doing a little ballerina stuff, and then she got into cheerleading. Now, being so active with the two youngest ones, I had to think about that. Sherelle's in and out of juvie, trying to get herself out of trouble. I'm trying to keep her out of trouble. At the same time, Junior was being neglected. He's being neglected. He'll come over, just play video games while we out there doubt this and that. We force him out, come out. But I never really acknowledged or really asked him what he wanted. And I was all worried about the two youngest. Didn't really put a lot of emphasis into what my oldest son wanted. I know he was a shy kid, sheltered by his mom, but she won't agree. But but she was a good mom to him too. And she didn't say too much. She just let the relationship go the way it was. Yeah, I fucked up again. So I guess I didn't learn from earlier mistake to where he was coming over all the way up until I think he was like 16, 17. And then we just got into it. Because I really wasn't trying to figure out what he wanted to do. I was worried about what the youngest wanted to do. And I fucked up on that one as well. I had to think about that. I had to man up about that. And I think there's a lot of guys out there that has done that. If you have done that, if you have multiple kids, just think about it. Think about like what you could have done to be equal, be even. At this time I'm in my 30s, I'm young, I'm still trying to figure out shit. I'm trying to balance this, balance that, go to work, baseball, marriage life. This kid over here is in juvie. This kid, I gotta try to figure out what he wants to do, but I'm not doing that. So everything was just crazy, always on the go. So then one time, like I think everything changed. Everything changed for me. When the deaths started to happen in my life. And I remember, right, the kids were a little bit older. My mom was, just getting very, very happy. Started wanting to spend time more with the kids. Didn't think about it at the time. So then my mom was like, she started taking Junior out more, but she was always taking Junior, but started taking Brand out more and started doing something with Joel. And then I'll never forget this day in March. It's probably the worst day, the worst 48 hours of my life. So Sunday night, I called my mom. Somebody just told me to call her. I'll never forget her words. She's like, Louis, I'm not feeling good right now. I'll talk to you tomorrow. I said, okay, Mom. Talk to you tomorrow. Now, at this point in time, thinking back now, I didn't know that was going to be the last time I ever talked to my mother. I never knew. So, a day or two later, it's like something wrong. Something ain't right. Called her. She didn't answer the phone. Called the job. She never came to work. So I went over there. I had the key. Went upstairs. I'm yelling for Mom. Mom, where you at? Saw the car outside. Saw a pocketbook on the couch. So it just didn't seem right. So I'm walking up slowly up steps. It's like a movie scene. I'm walking up slowly up the steps. And then I turn. The door was kind of creaked over. Like, Mom, what you doing? So I looked over. And she was on her side. And she was gone. She died in her sleep. I had to process that. I'm yelling, I'm screaming, Mama. I had to process that. It's still hard to process that. Because to this day, I don't know why. I was the last person to talk to her and the first person to find her. Now, you could talk to therapists, priests, whatever. Everybody say this will, that will, whatever. It's not fair. For years, I thought it was like a punishment. Right? I never got a chance to tell her I loved her. Nothing. Like, you lose your mom. Now, everything I went through, my mom, the ups and downs, more downs, her calling me this and calling me that and give me beatings out the ass and stupid I am, this and that, but you lose your mother. That killed me, and I'm 53 years old, about to be 54, and that still kills me to this day. I still can't figure it out, right? I'm the first person to find her, the last person to talk to, and the first person to find her. It hurts my heart. My mom had like a rock and roll concert funeral, man. Everybody was there. But then I didn't realize at the time, now I realize that my grandmother was just a total different person. Think about it. That was her child. She was lost. I didn't take that in back then. Didn't take it in at all. And I'm still married at the time. I'm still trying to function with, my kids' lives, my marriage, my job. It was hard. It was hard to do. But I had to. So I get back to work. We move on. Then I remember a few months later, my brother was getting married. And my father was there. He fell in love with my little girl. He loved her. Him and I didn't really get along either. But then all of a sudden, it kind of ended abruptly. So went to my brother's wedding. He's kind of like being a little dick in a way. But he loved my little girl. He loves her to death. So I ain't think nothing of it. A couple months later, me and my ex-wife was at a friend's house. He calls her phone and tells her that my father passed away. So this is a year after my mom passed away. And we was watching the Eagles game. So I know I take that in. I wasn't really close to him. But now thinking about it, I was so fucked up because a year earlier I lost my mother. Up and down relationship. Then I lose my father, which I didn't meet him until I was 21. We never really had a relationship, but still was my biological father. So I lost two parents in 2 years. All right. So my mentor was going through it, but I ain't really realized this because back in the day, it wasn't all about you didn't hear about these mental anxieties and all shit like that. Coming up, if you my age, people tell you to suck it up, right? Suck it up. So I'm coming up. I had to deal with that. Go to his funeral. I was like, damn, two parents, back to back, right? Two parents, back to back. Two parents, back to back. Year goes by, I'm trying to make my grandmother happy, but she still has a hole in her heart because she lost her daughter. People who know me now, they know I lost a daughter. So now I can understand the hole that she has. But I didn't understand it then. I didn't. When someone loses their child, it's a hole. It cannot be repaired. That's what my grandmother did for my mother. Couldn't be repaired. She wasn't sane. She was very quiet, distant. We bring the kids over, my oldest son and my two youngest come over, trying to cheer up for Christmases and stuff like that. And I remember the last Christmas before she passed, she was kind of happy. She liked to watch the kids. So months go on. I'm going through stuff at home. The communication at home was not there. I meet somebody at the time, and she was going through some stuff too. So we talked. We was talking. She listened to me. Just friendships. Didn't tell my ex-wife about it, which was wrong. Maybe I should have told her. Right? But probably should have told her. But I didn't. But she was there for me. She was listening to me. This is for months. It's communication, something I needed. So months go on. My grandmother goes to the hospital. I go visit her. I think last time I visited her, she was happy as hell. I've never seen her so happy in my life. She told me that she was proud of me. The first time ever, she was proud of me. She's proud of me. And then when she said she was proud of me, it was crazy. I'm thinking about it, right? She looked up, like she was in the bed, looked up, and she started smiling. Crazy, right? She started smiling. And I looked up, I'm like, what's she looking at? Like maybe it was my mom or somebody else. Maybe because at that point she was ready. But I didn't know that. Next day, I get a phone call from the hospital. She passed away in her sleep. Peacefully. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. And I was like, trying to talk to people, didn't have the communication. Just wasn't there. Because I didn't know what to do. Then I went to the person that I was talking to almost a year. She understood. Then I think about it now, maybe I should have tried to talk more to my ex-wife at the time to make her understand what I was going through. But we was going through our little issues too. But that was my fault. I don't know. I don't know. Whatever. It is what it is. So as time went along and I was still working, and then 3 months later, dog lovers, this, man, that's her hard thing. I had to put down my dog. I'm like, what the hell? Like, that's a hard thing to do. So I'm going through all these emotions, losing back to back to back to back parents. This is stuff I'm thinking about right now. And I needed someone to talk to. I didn't go to her. I didn't go to the ex-wife. I went to the woman. And we talked. We got more talking. Then we got closer. Then I had an affair. Was it right? Was it wrong? Yeah, should never happen. But now I think about it now, I was more wrong because I put that girl in a bad situation. Knowing I was married. Yeah, she knew. But I was relying on her to get me through it. And I put her in a bad situation. And maybe sweet nothings was said or stuff like that. I don't really remember. But I had to take accountability for that. Was it fair? My fault? I would say yes, on both sides. It wasn't fair to my ex-wife. It wasn't fair to the woman I had an affair with, because it was complications from that even to this day. And I'm sorry. I wish I never put her through that situation. But I had to think about this. I've always said, like, I need this, I need that, I need that time, I need that emotion, I need all this stuff, right? Maybe I should have tried harder. Maybe ex-wife should have tried harder. Who knows? It doesn't matter. It's over with, right? It's over with. I know I'm taking accountability for what I've done, and it was wrong on both sides. I put the woman I had an affair with in a bad situation. I put my kids in a bad situation. I put my reputation in the town I was living in in a bad view. And I was starting to get, looked up at by some people. You know, maybe cost myself some future, whatever. I don't know. Put myself in certain stereotype. But those are things that I did. I cannot overdo them. I cannot take them back. But I can apologize and acknowledge what I've done. And I did. I've acknowledged it. Certain things I would talk about, certain things I won't talk about. But the one thing I'm going to do for me, I'm only speaking for me. I'm not speaking for anybody else. I'm going to acknowledge my responsibility and do it. It was wrong. No matter how I felt at the time, no matter how I needed the companionship, the this, that, whatever. Because it wasn't even about, oh man, I can get someone aside for somebody. Nah, it was something that I felt at the time I was missing. Maybe I should have tried harder at home. But that didn't happen, right? Didn't happen. So that was my fault. So I'll move on from that. After going through all that, you had to come up, because this is my afterthoughts of it. I already told the whole story about this and that, and the people I met throughout that time. And I met some good people. I met some fucked up people in my 30s. Being married. Um, Losing my job at Coca-Cola for stupidity, for a stupid decision. I want to do something else. See, I made a lot of dumb mistakes when I was married, when I was in my 30s, to where I can't say I regret them totally, but it helped me to be it shaped my trajectory to where I'm at now, because the 40s was fucking insane. This is a shorter episode because I didn't want to get too deep into all this. This is something that I had to learn from. I think the most devastating part of my 30s was losing my parents, and having to cope with that, having to cope with a divorce, having to cope with a bad reputation, right? Having to hurt my two youngest kids, their mother, of infidelity, right? I had to deal with that. Now, back then, I'm like, whatever. But now you think about it, now you're older now. I can't go back and repair it. She's much happier now. She found a man she deserves. To her, whatever. Everybody's life is going on. But my kids are growing as well. I'll get into that in the future. But should have happened that way. But it's life lessons. I mean, shit happens. A lot of things do happen. And we're not perfect. When people say they are perfect, especially when they go through divorces, the old saying, there's three sides to the story. It's his, it's hers, and the truth. I just told mine. It's not a bitch fat story. This is something that helps me out. This is not a tell all shit. I don't do tell all craps. I don't do none of that shit. I'm telling about what I'm accountable to doing what I did. It was wrong. It was. That's what I learned. I learned that I hurt a lot of people. Well, not a lot of people, but basically my kids. I broke up a family. I lost my family. I lost a lot in them years. And I think my upbringing up to that point in time helped me guide me through it in a way. So that's what I learned from that part of my life, owning up to my responsibility. It was wrong for what I did on both sides. Spending too much time with the two youngest and not to the oldest was wrong. It should be equal. Pushing my youngest son into a career I thought was better for him because he was good at it in baseball was wrong. Should have spent more quality time with my little girl. Should have spent way more quality time with my oldest daughter. And definitely my oldest son. When I get into my 40s era, the part 4, that's when I learned how to become a dad, not a father, not a so-called father or whatever you want to call it, a dad. A man who would start to listen to his children, do more for his children. Well, some. Because you can't fix everything. I wish I could. God knows I wish I could fix everything. But I can't. I can learn from it. And I can pass my knowledge on to someone that might be going through it now. Last episode, a random person kind of went through what I went through on my first episode. And he understands that he wasn't alone. He went through all that shit. Bullied, stutter. Not so much stutter, but what he went through was kind of similar to my story. So if anybody gets something out of this, great. Infidelity is wrong. It's bad, especially when you're married. Oh my God. But when you're young, you don't understand. You wasn't, you'll probably say you weren't raised right. You want this right, you want that right. a lot of people get selfish. Maybe I was. Anyway, I took accountability for it. Next time, I'm gonna get into divorce. Well, divorce already happened. I moved on in my 40s. I had to move out, and I had to start the next chapter of my life, which was fucking insane. That's why I had to start dating again. This is the dating back in the day. We're talking about dating now, shit. We're talking about dating back in the day, like the beginning stage of online dating, all the rest of that shit, and meeting people and being a being a dad and not a father, and learning who the fuck I was. All right. Everybody, thank you so much for joining me on this ride. Please like, subscribe, comment. People, listen to me on Apple, Spotify, HeartbRadio. Give me a follow. Everybody have a good day. See you next time. Peace.